Well, welcome back, Hogtown campers. It's that time again. So today I'm going to be doing a Stealth Camping Alliance challenge. We're going to be headed to Breckenridge, Texas, to a nice little spot that a friend of mine told me about. As you know, this month is going to be the Bridgechallenge, and so that's where we'll be, is under a bridge. So I'm going to head out. It's about 50 miles from here. I've got to stop and get a few things at the store, and then I will meet back up with you guys later on when we get to the campsite. All right, stay tuned. And we're here. So it only took me 50 miles and 2 stops at Walmart, but I made it. So I'm approximately 5 miles west of Breckenridge under a really nice bridge. Right now there's someone parked across the way. Looks like they might be fishing in the creek. Hopefully they're not going to be here all evening. We'll see. So I'm going to get out and start setting up, and once I get set up, I'll get back with you guys. All right, see you then. So camp is set up, if you want to call it that. It's pretty windy here today, and so I decided not to sleep in a tent tonight because I really don't want it to blow over on me. So I'm going to be sleeping in the car. In fact, I've got the car parked right here to block as much wind as possible so that I can actually talk and not get drowned out by the wind. But I'm going to show you guys this campsite here in just a little while. Right now I'm going to sit here and drink a step 2, and I'm going to do it in my new Frost Buddy, which I'll talk more about that later. But I'm enjoying a Dos Equis Chelada that is spicy mango flavored. And so far it's really good. But what's really cool about where I'm at, I'm under this huge bridge off of US 180, about 4 miles outside of Breckenridge. And there is such a good access to get under this bridge. Not only am I going to stealth camp under here, I'm going to stealth camp under here with my car. I can actually drive under this thing with my car and turn around and drive out, and nobody will ever know I'm here, with the exception of the people that were here earlier. There were some folks, like I say, across the river over there, and they were fishing, but as soon as I got here, they left. So thankfully, you don't have to worry about that. But I've got a decent little video set tonight. I'm actually going to be able to use a little fire pit, and it's sort of windproof, so hopefully that will work out pretty good. And also, I'm going to be cooking some little sausage over it with my new Corporal's Corner skillet, which we'll see how that goes. It'll be the first time I've used it. And then also, maybe later, we'll have us a little bit of a campfire story time. But until then, I'm going to sit here and enjoy my beer, and in a little bit I will show you guys around this campsite I'm at. So see you then. Let's take a look at this campsite. So as you can see, this is it. Very basic. Like I say, I've got the car parked so it kind of blocks the wind off of me later, so when I have a fire in my handy dandy little fire pit there, it will be somewhat pleasant. But I've even got my own little table. So, like I say, all kinds of room under this bridge. It's a pretty big bridge. And as you can see, people have sprayed stuff on the columns. There's even a couch over there. So, somebody's obviously been out here up to no good. But, this is on Highway 180, like I said, and A little funny story about this bridge. A friend of mine who has the same job that I do, he actually helped rebuild this bridge about, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe. And it's really a pretty nice place. As you can see, this, I'm not sure the name of this body of water. I know that it goes from here and kind of winds around, and it meets up with Hubbard Creek Reservoir, which is just about 4 miles away from here back towards Breckenridge. But the people that were here earlier, they were actually parked on that side, and they were fishing right here underneath the bridge. And as soon as I got here, they decided that it was time to go, which thankfully wasn't an issue. But like I say, I was wondering about some kindling for later, but there's plenty right there, so I'll be making use of that, and even a little bit of firewood there. But there's not really a whole lot to explore. I'm probably not going to go wandering around too much out here, but this is it. Like I say, obviously someone was a Rob Zombie fan, and DSN sure loves DRN, but like I say, it's home for the night. We'll try to make a good time of it, but until then, still have a little while before I'm going to start the fire and cook something for dinner. So I figured I would take a minute to talk about a few things. First, let's talk about Breckenridge. We're roughly 70 miles northeast of Abilene and roughly 50 miles northwest of where I live in Desdemona. Breckenridge is roughly 5,000 people, not a very big town. It was founded in 1853, 1854, and it was called Picketteville originally. One of the most well-known people that has spent time here in Breckenridge was Doc Holliday. Of course, as you know, he was famous for the shootout at the OK Corral with Wyatt Earp and his brothers. I looked and tried to find some more, cool historical legends or ghost stories about Breckenridge. I couldn't find anything specific. So I had to move to a different town down the highway here for that, and we'll talk about that later. But some of the things to do here in Breckenridge is, first of all, you've got Hubbard Creek Reservoir, which I mentioned earlier. It's a fairly big lake. It tends to stay dry a lot more than some of the other lakes around here. Right now, I think it might be about 75% full, but they have a marina there. They've got a couple little parks, and then they've also got a KOA. Other than that, I don't know a whole lot about this lake, but I've actually spent a good bit of time in the city of Breckenridge and in the area itself. I've done 3 different projects with work here. I did one where I helped rebuild the highway between this bridge and what they call the mile-long bridge, which goes over the lake down here. And then I did 2 different projects in the city limits of Breckenridge, one on the south side and one on the east side. So I would say I spent roughly 2.5 years up here. The other thing I want to talk about, and I mentioned it earlier, is my Frost Buddy. First of all, it's not a paid sponsorship. It's just something I come across and really like the product, so I figured I would share. So about 2 or 3 years ago, I was on a road trip and we stopped at Buc-ee's. And I come across this product called a Frost Buddy, and I'm sure everybody has seen the little can coolers. Yeti makes them. You can get one at Walmart that's Ozark Trail brand. All your companies that make the stainless steel tumblers make one. But what made this one a little bit cooler is that it would hold several different sizes of drinks. You could put a regular 12-ounce soda can in there, or you could put a 12-ounce, the slim cans in there. And it has an insert that you slide in and out. And when you pull that out, well, then you could put a 16-ounce can in there. It would also hold most of your 12-ounce bottles, like your beer bottles. And I'm not sure if it holds the banquet Coors bottles, but after I bought it, I've used the heck out of it. I've used it probably almost every day since I got it, especially at work. You know, I take it with me every morning. But after I bought it, I went on their website and noticed they had one called the Universal Buddy XL. And that's what this is. I just got it this morning, and I've been wanting one for a while, just haven't ordered one. But I took the plunge. As you can see, it's olive drab green. My old one is solid black. But what makes this one even cooler is it holds even more things. It has an insert in it as well, which I don't have it with me right now. It's in the car. But you can put all of the stuff I mentioned for the old one in here. Plus, it holds your 20 ounce like soda bottles, like your Coca-Cola bottle, your Mountain Dew bottle, whatever. It also will hold a Modelo bottle, which, you know, those things are kind of an odd shape, but it'll fit in here. It'll hold, like I did earlier, a 24-ounce tall boy can. And I think that's pretty much it. But it also comes with, you can also get it with a lid that goes on here with a straw, so you can use it itself as a drink container. But it's a pretty cool product. Like I say, my old one I have used a lot, and I look to use that one just as much. But if you ever come across one, I think it's a heck of a lot better spent money on it than like a Yeti that only holds one size or whatever. I mean, you can hold so much in there. But check it out. It's a good company. They also have one that you can stick a whole Starbucks cup down in. So we got the fire going, and it's almost time to cook. I'm going to be using my Corporal's Corner handy dandy skillet that I got. It's got the folding handle. I'm going to cook us some sausages in it. The fire pit I got. So you guys have heard of the Solo stove. Well, Walmart come out with their own version of that in the Ozark Trail line, and it actually kind of, you take it apart and sort of condense it down into a smaller size, and so that it'll fit in a sack that it came with. But as soon as that log that's sticking up above that burns down, I'm going to put the grate on there, and we're going to cook some sausage. So I've got the sausage on. It's nothing special. It's called Texas Smokehouse beef sausage, and I've had it before. It's a pretty good sausage, but I say I'm using the Corporal's Corner stove, or not the stove, the Corporal's Corner skillet here, and we'll see how it works. I highly recommend checking out his channel. It's a pretty good channel. There's lots of good information on there as far as like building shelters and bushcrafting and camping and survival. And like I say, he makes these stoves, and it's not huge, as you can see, but it's good enough for something like this, you know, going on a backpacking trip or whatever. But I'm going to continue to cook these sausages, and then when I get done, I'm probably going to eat, and I will see y'all when it's time for a story. Time for some creepy stories. So I mentioned earlier that I couldn't find anything good about Breckenridge or the area here around Breckenridge. So I decided to tell one about a town that's about 50 miles west of here called Anson. It's off of this same highway, US 180, and it's once you get that away, it's roughly about 20 miles north of Abilene. So it's a small town, maybe 2,500 to 3,000 people, and just east of town is a cemetery called Mount Hope Cemetery. So one of the things that Anson is famous for is it was named after the final president of the Republic of Texas, Anson James. But the other thing that it's famous for is a phenomenon called the Anson Light. And so the thing with that is supposedly there's a county road that goes just west of the cemetery. And if you drive down that county road and park in a certain location and you flash your headlights 3 times, you're supposed to see a light appear that will kind of flash back at you. And there are 3 different stories that are supposedly the origin of this. And the first story was that there was this woman, she was a single mother, and she had a little boy. And one day, her little boy wandered away from the house and got lost. And so the mother went out there with her lantern and started looking for her little boy. But she never could find him. And so the story goes that the light is this woman with her lantern out searching for her little child. The second story is, so this woman, single mom, she had an adult son or older teenage son, whichever, and he went to work for the railroad. Well, every time he would come home from his job, he would signal he was coming by flashing a lantern 3 times. And I guess, from what I understand, maybe he ended up dying at work, maybe, and never made it home, but every time his ghost would signal his mother. And then the third story is that same thing, you had this mother, but this time she had 3 older sons. And so one night she sent the 3 sons into town to get some stuff. And while they were on their way back, they were all 3 hit by a train and killed. And she had told them before they left, if something was to happen to them, if they got into trouble or whatever, to flash their lantern 3 times so that she would know to come help them. Well, like I say, they got hit by a train, and so the story goes that they are still continuing to flash their lantern in hopes to get their mother to come and help them. Another story that people say that is possibly the Anson Light is like there's this little boy that died in the area, and that the Anson Light is his ghost that's wandering around in the cemetery and in the area. But apparently there was a ghost hunting group that came one time, and they were able to get the light to go off, and they investigated. And then another story that I want to share. So when I was a kid, in our school library, there was a series of books that we had. It was called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And they're a fairly well-known series of children's books. And of course, they made a movie about it several years ago. But I grew up reading the books. They pretty much influenced me loving scary stories. And so I just wanted to kind of share one of those stories out of the books. And so there's these two farmhands. One of them's name was Alfred and one of them's name was Thomas. And they lived down in a valley. And every year they would take their cattle from the valley up into the mountains for 2 months during the summer to graze where it was cooler. And so they would do that every year, and it was pretty boring. And so one night they decided to I'm hearing something weird out there. They decided to kind of liven things up and make a dummy. Well, they took this dummy and they made him look like one of their neighbors that they didn't like and called him Harold. Well, Harold, they would play with him. They would try to get him to eat food and say, "You better eat that, Harold. You better don't miss a meal." And one night when they were doing this, Harold grunted back at them. And they were kind of freaked out. "Did you hear that?" Alfred asked. "Yeah, I heard that. That was weird. We should throw him in the fire." And of course Alfred was like, "No, let's not be stupid. It's nothing." Well, then every day when they would go out into the field, they would take Harold and they would hang him on a pole to act as a scarecrow. Well, when they were done, they would take him inside and put him in the corner. Well, one day, Harold, they got to looking at him, and they noticed some odd. "I swear he's bigger," Alfred said. "You sure?" Thomas said. He's like, "Yeah, I'm sure he looks bigger." And so they said, "Well, let's keep an eye on him for now, but when we leave to take the cattle back down in the valley, we'll leave him here." And so not too long after that, Alfred was sitting in the corner of the cabin one day, and he just stood up and run outside, climbed up on the roof, and was walking back and forth all night and all day the next day. Well, then one morning he climbs down off the roof and he goes out and stands in the pasture. And then after that, they didn't see him. And so they decided that day to take the cows back down into the valley. So they started taking the cows, and Thomas told Alfred, he's like, I forgot some stuff. I forgot the milking stools. I'm going to have to go back. Well, neither one of them wanted to go back because they didn't know where Harold was at. And so they decided that Thomas would go back and Alfred would go ahead with the cattle. Well, eventually Thomas never returned, so Alfred decided to go back and see if he could find him. Well, when he got back to where the cabin, he could see Harold up on the roof, and he was hanging a freshly skinned like piece of leather up on the roof to dry in the sun. So anyway, like I say, I always thought that was a neat story. Those books, if you've never read them, I suggest checking them out if you like scary stuff. But I think I'm going to finish up my beer, and then I'm going to read a little bit, and then probably head to bed. So I'll check back in with you folks in the morning. Good night. Well, good morning, everyone. It's roughly 5:45 here in the morning. I'm on the way home. I got up roughly about 4:30 and packed up and started headed home. I stopped in Eastland at McDonald's to get some breakfast, and then right now I'm parked at Choco-Block Park, which is a little campsite on Lake Leon, not too far from the house. But I'm gonna eat my breakfast real quick and thought I would check back in with you guys. It was a good night. Told some good stories. Sadly, my dinner was kind of a fail, but it is what it is. Not gonna lie, I kind of spooked myself a little bit during the stories. It never fails for nature to try to mess with you when you're in the middle of telling a ghost story in the middle of nowhere. But the owls definitely added to the atmosphere of the ghost story I was telling. But overall, it was a good trip. I can't wait for the next one. So I just wanted to throw a couple shout outs to another channel or two that I've been watching. One of them is called What Lurks Beneath. I can't remember if I've mentioned them before, but it's a neat channel. The guy, he shares true paranormal and creepy stories. Has a very good voice and good knack for it. But the other channel I wanted to share is called The Paranormal Files. And how in the world this guy has the time to make a 2 to 3 hour video every week and run a second channel about conspiracies, I don't know. But his paranormal channel is awesome. I mean, it's just him and maybe a friend, some of his family members going and investigating some of these haunted places and whatnot. But I highly recommend checking his channel out. I'll put a link for both channels down in the bio, or I'm sorry, down in the comment. I can't even talk this morning. Down in the description. So I just wanted to also mention, you know, if you're interested, you know, grab a Hogtown Camping t-shirt, or got some other merchandise there. I think there's a hat, some stickers, whatever. Also, a new feature I'm trying to get going is called Hogtown Camping Tales from the Campfire, and it's on Reddit, and the link to that is also in my link tree down in the bio. And what it is, you know, if you happen to come across the channel and you got some spooky, creepy stories of your own you want to share, or if you want to share them so that I can tell them in a future video, that's awesome too. But check that out. Once again, thanks for watching. I couldn't do this without you guys, and I would love your support. But until next time, keep camping.